Now that all the celebrations are over and we're well and truly into the new year, maybe we should all try a new operating system. Maybe we should be trying FreeBSD in 2023. If you're nervous about FreeBSD, and it's understandable, there are ways to try it out before you actually commit yourself. Two of the best ways are GhostBSD and NomadBSD. With GhostBSD, it's a live session, so everything runs off the DVD or the DVD image on your USB storage device without ever changing anything, and then you can install to hard drive if you wish. And NomadBSD runs completely off the USB device and can have storage as well, unlike GhostBSD, but that can also be installed to the hard drive like GhostBSD. So these two operating systems are an excellent way to try FreeBSD, because basically underneath the nice shiny surface is the beating heart of FreeBSD. There are lots of resources you can use when you're actually thinking about going to FreeBSD, or once you've gone down the path and you start to install FreeBSD. And one of the main ones I always consult and always point people towards if they have any questions about FreeBSD is Maiden's blog. Now, it covers almost every topic you could imagine, and I do consider this to be an unofficial addition to the FreeBSD handbook, which is the official documentation. It goes into a lot of detail, configurations, how to get graphics up and going, how to install the basic things, and it is done in a very grounded and down-to-earth way. There's no, let's say there's no arrogance there. He's a very, very approachable and down-to-earth guy. And if you've got any questions about his blog, then you just drop him a line, either via email or on Twitter, and he'll get back to you, and he'll explain things, and he takes his time. And I really respect that. So, as you can see, we're scrolling down. There's lots of different ways to contact him and lots of subjects that he talks about. And to me, it's an invaluable resource. Something which every would-be and prospective FreeBSD user really should consult. Check Maiden's blog out and you won't be disappointed. The next resource which really you should check out is, like I was saying, it's the official FreeBSD handbook from freebsd.org. Now, this has been updated with a lot of new information. It goes into, I think, more detail than Maiden's, really, because that's really what it should be doing. But they really break everything down into very simple and very easy digestible chunks. So it's, like I say, it progresses into more sophisticated and harder topics, but it will ease you into that rather than just dumping you straight there, which a lot of documentation for FreeBSD or a lot of guides for FreeBSD have a tendency to do. So yeah, for the official guide, the FreeBSD handbook is something that you should be checking out. And, well, what can I say? And the last sort of resource that you should be checking out, or maybe the first, I'm just going to ring my own bell, is my YouTube channel. I've done quite a few videos on how to install FreeBSD and easy guides to get FreeBSD up and going in, really to do what you want it to do. So I've done quite a few videos, and it's something which I like to help people get to grips with FreeBSD and to show them that it's not just for servers. I think my YouTube channel was one of the first really to hammer home the fact that FreeBSD can be used as a desktop as well, and it's something I'm quite proud of and something that I will continue to do. Right, you've decided to try FreeBSD. The first thing you'll need is a USB storage device, minimum 8 gigabytes, I would say. And then you will have to head on to the FreeBSD website, the FreeBSD project, and download. And you can see that big yellow button in the middle. It says download FreeBSD. So you click on that, and it will always take you to, at the top, there's always the latest release. And you probably want in that one, although you could choose an earlier one if you wish. You'll need to select an install image, or a virtual machine image if you're doing that way. SD card if you're putting it, say, for instance, on a single board computer. And there's documentation if you want some extra help. But in this case, what we need to do is download, and I would say the 64-bit image, the AMD 64. You can have boot only, disk one, DVD one, memstick on mini memstick. So we're putting it onto a USB storage device. So really we should be downloading the memstick image. If you were burning to a blank DVD or CD, then one of the ISOs would do. So we're downloading the memstick image, the AMD 64 one, and we'll put it into the computer, then boot up. Right, once that's downloaded, we'll put it into the test machine and boot up. Of course, you could install it to any machine you want. You can install it to the same machine you're looking at this on and put in a different hard drive. It's just, remember, it will overwrite the hard drive which you're actually using as your main system, so bear that in mind. So, making sure that we can boot up on USB. The system will greet you like this. It'll go to countdown for 9 seconds, but you could interrupt it if you wish by pressing enter. Don't worry about any of the boot options at the moment. That's for a much later date. We just need to get things up and going. It will automatically start loading up. Lots of text scrolling the screen. There's no fancy graphics here. And, you know, actually in time, the more you use FreeBSD, the more you'll appreciate seeing the information on screen. Because it gives you an idea what's happening and lets you know if there's any problems. Right, you get this nice blue welcome screen. Gives you 3 options. You can install, you can use shell or live CD. Don't worry about them. We just need to press enter for install. And it will let you choose a key map. The default standard one is US. So if that's where you are, then you can just press enter to continue with a default key map. And you can test it if you want. But in this case, what we need to do, there's it, if you want to test it. What we need to do is go down to UK, because I'm in the United Kingdom. Of course, any of the ones that we're scrolling past, if you need to do them, it's the same process. So we're pressing United Kingdom. If you need to test it again, press test if you wish, but I trust it. And continue, pressing enter. And now it's asking for a host name. So you can choose any name you want. Just try and keep it relatively short. So I'm going to call it test. And you distribution select. So what this is, lets you install things from the beginning. Your base debugging system, you don't need that if you're just a user and you're not going to develop in. It's the same with kernel debug, you don't need that. But otherwise, you can leave it at the defaults. Press enter. You can choose which file system you would like to partition your disk. Auto ZFS, auto UFS, manual or shell. The manual or shell you don't need to worry about. Auto UFS is for the older Unix file system, which is very reliable. But it doesn't have the power of ZFS, so ZFS is the one we need. It's a relatively modern file system. So pressing enter, we get these choices. You don't press anything yet because it's not set up your disks. Leave the rest of the options here at default. So we need to set up the disk that you want to install to. So if you press enter, you don't get this option, by the way, if you've chosen UFS. It's a much simpler operation. We can either choose Stripe, Mirror, RAID 10, RAID, Z1, Z2, Z3. Because we're on a single disk, we're going to choose Stripe with no redundancy. The rest is for a future video. It's a bit more technical, but we just go with the top one. And the disk we're installing to is a Samsung, so we install that to that. The bottom one is the USB stick, which we're installing from. Now that that's been done, it says one disk. We can press enter and proceed. It will give you a warning saying, are you sure you want to destroy the contents? Yes, we do. And off it goes. It will format the hard drive using ZFS and install the various knickknacks. I'm just going to fast forward this bit because it takes a little while. And there we go. Now the installer changes and it turns to this nice black and white text. It's asking you for a root password, or the admin password as it's also known as. Choose a password that you can remember and try and keep it different from your user account password that you'll be using later on. I mean, I suppose technically if you're the only person using the computer, maybe you could use the same, but it's always good habit not to use the same one. With FreeBSD, unlike some other operating systems, you can't see when you type, so you're going to have to remember how many characters you did and how you spelt it, otherwise you're not going to be able to log in as root, or again, admin privileges. And once you choose the network card, so there's only one fitted on this machine, so we can press enter. Would you like to configure IPv4? Yes, we do. You can choose no if you wish. And would you like to use DHCP? Normally, if you prefer that, then yes. But in this case, I'm going to manually configure it because the way that I've configured my network, it gets a little funky. So I'm just going to put the address in manually, subnet mask, and default router. Like I say, you can choose DHCP if you wish. and I don't want to configure IPv6. Network configuration, need a search term, IPv4 resolve for DNS, and I'm just going to put that Google one at the bottom. You can put any of that you want in there, of course. Is this machine... no, it's not set to UTC, so set no. And because we selected no, we're going to have to choose a time zone manually. I'm just going down to Europe. Of course, you know, if yours isn't in Europe or it's in Africa, then you need to choose the one appropriate for your country and the time zone. That looks fine. You can skip, and you can skip. If everything looks fine, you can skip. Final little choice is services that you'd like to start up. You can leave it at default, although I would always get rid of dump dev because you don't need that. Enable mouse and NTP, so you can configure the clock automatically. Choose system security. Well, again, it's choice. You can just leave it as it is if you want, or you can enable some, like disable send mail and syslogd and clear temp when you reboot the system, and random PIDs. Other than that, you can press enter. Would you like to add users? Well, it's not going to be much good without it. First, you put your username. It's usually lowercase and usually one word. So just in case I'm typing RoboNuggie. Then you can put your full name, and obviously it could be, you can put your real name or, like I say, a version of your username if you wish. User IDs, leave that default. Login group, leave that for default. Invite to other groups. Well, it's really useful if you want to enter admin privileges for wheel, operator, and video. I like to put them because it really it gets rid of some incompatibilities with graphic drivers, etc. Default shell is selected as SH. You'll have that. Leave that as default, and that as default. Leave that as default, yes, and leave that as default. Use a random password. No, that's default again. And now, because you haven't got a random password, you need to enter a password, which again is going to be different from the root. So remember it, and remember how many spaces you put in, etc. Lock out the account. No, you don't want to do that. And there's a summary of what we've just entered. If you're happy with that, press yes. Oh, sorry, type yes. I like that. It's so you don't accidentally make a mistake. You don't want to add another user. No. And there we are. So if there's no changes that you want to make, because this is the place where you do it after you've installed everything, just to make a change, you can select enter for exit. And before exit install, would you like to open a shell? Normally I would just know, and press no, it would go into reboot, and then you just quickly whip out the USB stick. But in this case, this is perhaps a better way to do it. Go into shell, type in halt, and the system will shut down. Now, for those who perhaps haven't got the Olympic skills to quickly remove the USB stick before the system reboots, and then you end up going back into the installer, this is perhaps the best way. So once it's shut down, remove the installer, reboot the system. Now, it should reboot using the hard drive that you installed FreeBSD to. Again, you can press enter to speed things up, but it's, it's a 9-second thing, so you can quickly access the menu if you want to do any of them. Right, so the system's booted. I'm not going to fast forward. I'm going to show it in all its glory. Like I say, you don't get a wonderful splash screen. There are ways to do it, but not in this video. And we'll just keep on going until it sets itself up. And like I was saying earlier, you actually come to appreciate all the text scrolling up on FreeBSD. There's something which I think many Linux distributions got rid of a long time ago for a more user-friendly thing, but you miss some of the information. Right, so you get a login screen. You put the username that we put in earlier. Hopefully you remembered it. And the password, again, hopefully you remember. If not, it's going to be a very a quick demo, and it's going to be over soon. Right, so there we are. We're logged into the FreeBSD system. You don't have to leave it at text, of course. You can install window managers and desktop environments and whatever you want to do. We're not going to do that in this video. I will possibly do it in a future video. But it just shows you that FreeBSD just isn't for servers. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This and every other video on my channel has been made using FreeBSD and open source software.